to yet another episode of We Talk Talent series. Today we have with us Khevna Shah, Head of HR at Coverfox Group. Khevna has 14 plus years of experience in varied facets of HR field across industries like manufacturing, banking, and financial services and insurance. At Coverfox Group, she manages talent acquisition, retention, employee engagement, performance-focused culture with a keen eye on the future as the brand grows and scales. Welcome to the show, Khevna.
Thank you. Thank you, Abid.
Thanks a lot for taking out time and coming to the show. Without any further ado, Khevna, I would like to ask you first question. Khevna, this is a very basic question, and I would like you to highlight how is your industry tackling the changes that the workplace has gone through over the past couple of years. If you could share a brief overview with us.
Sure. So industry, I'll tag myself into insurance as well as technology both, because that is what both the setups take care of. So if we talk about insurtech, it has only grown in the last year and a half. When I say grown, it is more from mind share perspective, where insurance used to be a complete push product. It's become more of a pull product. People are more aware about getting themselves insured, taking care of insurance as a protection and not only a tax saving instrument. So from that point of view, there is a lot more awareness, a lot more penetration of insurance than it has ever been in India, right? India, as everybody is kind of keeps talking about, is underinsured, uninsured to a large extent, and there is a huge scope from that point of view. So challenges that we faced in the last couple of years, a lot of it would sound similar to most industries, which is owing to the pandemic. You have talent based remotely and managing expectations as well as managing aspirations, being located at different locations and still working as hard towards the same collaborative or unique vision that the company has set for itself. And especially in a startup, to scale up more, it is more difficult, considering you have absolutely the entire motivation towards work is that vision, and it is extremely critical that that communication is clear, that impact is clear in the heads of every individual. We've been very fortunate to have an extremely diligent and extremely high on performance team with us, who's been with us for the last two and a half years amongst all ups and downs. But yeah, the challenge has still remained on when we have to add talent. There is an extremely difficult, or there was until about 6 months ago, a very difficult market out there to tap the right kind of talent, having them stick around and having them work from offices and kind of get away from the remote working 100% work culture, considering in a startup you have to have a more collaborative setup. So work from home versus work from office, the continuous debate that ensues there, that is one part. Getting the right kind of talent in, that is the second part. And of course, the talent that exists, retaining and ensuring that they are able to perform to their optimal best. So this is not necessarily the new challenges, but yeah, the priorities of the challenge have changed, of course.
Okay, you mentioned about talent. We all know the talent war we are talking about, another debate apart from work from home and work from office. According to you and your industry demands, what type of skill shortage do you think is causing the talent war?
I wouldn't say the skills are short, really, Abid. Essentially, post-pandemic, everybody has gone digital, or rather, digital has picked up a lot more speed than it would have maybe otherwise. Everybody, or literally everybody within the industry, outside the industry, were working towards including or being more tech inclined in the way of doing business, right? Whether it is insurance or NBFCs or financial services, generally has been more adaptive of technology than others. But across industry, that has been fad, or that has been the trend, if I may put it that way. And owing to that, it is more about the law of demand and supply. The demand had suddenly increased manifold, considering technology was a way forward, and everybody wanted all talent that was technologically inclined, developers and testers and technology managers, engineers, and so on and so forth. And that is kind of the reason for the so-called technology wars, because there will be only so many people with certain sets of skills, functional and otherwise. And if we want ready to plug and play kind of talent, kind of are willing to go the extra mile, pay the extra buck, give the extra facilities, and that is how kind of the entire challenge of talent war, so to say, emanates. Um, Having said so, at a point in time, it rationalizes, and the market kind of course corrects itself, realizes where you have to kind of end of the day run businesses. So you also talk about profitability and not only, bringing in the talent and so on and so forth. So then market also rationalizes and plateaus at some point in time, which I think we are to some extent looking at right now, right?
Okay, thank you for highlighting about the skill shortage that I spoke, but you mentioned it's about the talent technology. Another thing that I do like to explore, and I would like to have your thoughts. We all talk about gig economy, which is, I don't know if I don't have any survey to suggest, but it is one of the most vital workforce, or we can see the backbone of the workforce, the working economy. So what are some of the most prominent challenges organizations in India face to utilize the gig economy at its full potential?
So while we all love talking about gig economy, frankly, we're not equipped to use talent in a gig economy, because we're used to full-time employees, people giving 8 hours of their day, 5 days a week or 6 days a week, or whichever way it works. And it becomes a little bit of a mindset change, that people would require flexibility, and at the same point in time some amount of airtightness in the contracts that you draw up with the people who are gig workers. Because when you say gig economy, it goes on to, I mean, to be very plainly putting it, it is the same person working for multiple projects, multiple companies. Some of these companies may be competitive in nature, directly or indirectly. So while you put out NDAs in place saying, you can't work with an immediate competitor, in today's day and age, you don't really see a competition within the same frame as well, right? I mean, if you give an example saying, today an e-commerce platform can sell insurance, a car dealer can also be selling used cars. So there are multiple ways in which competition kind of comes into play, right? So when you say gig economy, and you have to kind of make sure that you get the right kind of talent, at the same point in time dedicated work from that talent, and not lose out on your competitive edge with a competitor or prospective competitor. There are certain policies, frameworks that need to be very ironclad. And it is an interesting, frankly speaking, way to get multitude of talent at a fraction of cost, especially when we are talking the startup world. That is how it ideally would work really, really well, if you get, people for projects, people for short stints, where you kind of contribute, deliver, and then, if people want to move out, that's fine. It allows both the employees to kind of look at multiple projects and increase their knowledge with, and the company also does not necessarily have to bear a huge cost from that point of view. So it's an interesting concept, the gig economy, so to say. But like I said, you have to have very strong contracts and terms in place to be able to make best utilization of that gig economy, not and having a win-win situation, right? The employee as well as the employer, or not employee in this case, the gig worker, so to say, and employer have to be on good context in that sense. So in fact, we've seen that, this is not like It is for money that people want to leave. A lot of times you see people leaving because they're just bored in the same setup, or they want to try some new project. They want to give themselves that entrepreneurial kick. You can't give all of it when you are in one single setup. But we've seen in our case as well, there have been people in tech who wanted to be on consultant mode, that we want to work on multiple projects, and we think that we can do that. I'll spend say 80 hours a week with you, and the rest I should be able to work it out in my fashion. And we've kind of come to terms and come to agreements with our ex-employees also, where we've seen that it benefits both.
Thank you so much for highlighting this gig economy and the gig workers very thoroughly. I would like to ask you about another aspect of the workforce, or another part of the work, which is Gen Z, right? We all talk about millennials and Gen Z.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're smiling. But what is your take on the new generation, especially Gen Z, entering the workforce, and how do their expectations differ from those previous generations?
It's a different generation, of course, and it has always been a different generation that enters workforce, and you're expected to kind of deal with their expectations. But I don't think generations really don't. It's not the generation that creates a difference, but it's more about a percentage of that generation kind of being stereotyped into one cohort, so to say. Having said that, of course, a Gen Z is now into the workforce, and it's a different generation. A lot of them have entered workforce completely virtually, having completed their post graduations as part of graduation also virtually. And for them, there is a learning curve as well, expectation curve as well, in terms of how workplace looks like. And fortunately, unfortunately, social media has created a lot of hype about what workplaces really look like. We've used most of the social media portals to put out only the glamorous part of workplace, of celebrations and offsites and awards and so on and so forth. So the expectations are also somewhere stemming from there. So which are the expectations that you kind of need to manage to some extent. But it is a very bright generation, if I may put it out there. I mean, when we started workforce, we were very blank. We were very uninitiated, if I may, that you kind of given a certain task and you give it your 100%. Of course, diligence was present then, diligence is present now, but they're a lot more focused. They know what they want, which is interesting, and they're not apologetic about asking for what they want or what they think they deserve. May or may not kind of all the time fructify, but and you're willing to give that 100% or beyond to kind of reach the place that you want to reach, which is a good place to be. The challenging part is not Gen Z. The challenging part is multiple generations now at workforce. So there is a generation which has been around, and towards the end of their probably corporate life tenures. Then there is a midway, the people who are right now in their 40s and so on and so forth. And then there is another generation which is in their midlife or mid-management levels at this point in time. And then there is generation which is just about join, 20s. So it is a very interesting influx of the 3-4 generations. That is, earlier, I think generations were defined at a gap of 15-20 years. Now it is much faster that a generational clip is seen.
Okay.
But yeah, I think not too much has changed in that sense. The expectations, the communication expected is much faster, much transparent, and they're willing to grab and go. So
Yes, definitely, and they're vocal about their thoughts, unlike the previous generation, I may say. So that's a good point you highlighted. So one last question, and especially since you are managing employee engagement, acquisition, and everything. So can you share some of the most prominent challenges you faced in the TA space, and what were your strategies to overcome them?
In TA space, of course, in the last 1.5, 2 years, I think the challenge has been like you kind of put it out, the talent war, so to say, right? Where everybody wants the last bit of the talent. That is especially when it comes to tech talent, and people have been kind of bringing the market down, bringing the roof of the market down, literally, with the kind of compensations and the percentage hikes that people have been getting and giving as well. So that has been a major challenge. Of course, beyond the point, it is extremely difficult to compete. You are not sure whether the person will come on board even after giving the offer and engaging, and even after they join, it is not sure that they'll be sticking around for a year or so. So that has been the major challenge in talent acquisition and onboarding, so to say. Like I said, multiple factors that have impacted that, crazy compensations being one of it, but the other piece is also being people wanting to make the most of it. That if you're getting the hike, why not? Having said that, it is eventually getting rationalized, and people are rewarded for the amount of efforts and amount of impact that you create. Eventually, it is not about the number of jobs you change and number of, and I wouldn't tag it as job change being a blot, or not changing a job being amazing or whatever. It is different situations that can be explained in whichever format. So you really cannot tag it as good or bad or ugly. It is very situational, but yeah, the talent wars in that sense have kind of impacted, but like I said, it is getting rationalized as we speak, and people who have kind of created impacts in their fields are still as valuable as ever.
Thank you so much, Khevna, for sharing your thoughts on different topics and sharing your thoughts, especially on Gen Z. It was lovely hosting you, and it was a learning experience as well.
Lovely speaking to you too, Art.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Khevna.
Amit.